The garden was her favorite place. It was peaceful. She stood by the bench, sitting down, her eyes scanning the horizon. Her heart fluttered with excitement when she saw Jungkook's black Bugatti pulling into the driveway. Her eyes sparkled, her lips forming a small smile. It had been a long day, and she had been waiting eagerly to see him again. The door to the sleek car opened, and Jungkook stepped out. His dark hair ruffled slightly by the wind. His usual stern expression softened when he saw Wyan, his Wyan, waiting for him. He crossed the car, opening the passenger door, most probably to take out the flowers for her. However, Wyan's smile faltered. Something wasn't right. Her eyes looked out onto the shadow figure in the distance, and then she saw it, the glint of metal in the fading sunlight, a gun, pointed directly at Jungkook. Panic surged through her. Her heart raced as her legs began to move on their own. She bolted towards him, her mind screaming, her body shaking. She tried to scream for him, tried to shout out his name, but no sound came out. The voice she had lost years ago betrayed her again. Her hands clenched into fists as she ran, desperate to reach him before it was too late. She lost her parents in an accident. The trauma made her lose her voice. One couldn't bear the thought of losing him. The effort to speak was painful. Her throat burned. Her heart screamed louder than any sound she could ever mutter. And finally, after so many years, her voice tore through the space. Fine, Jungkook. The moment the name left her lips, it felt like her body had betrayed her once more. The years of silence came crashing down. Blood spilled from her lips as the strain took its toll. Her vision blurred, her body collapsing under the weight of it all. She fainted. Jungkook had heard her. Her voice, the voice he had longed to hear for so long. He turned around, his heart swelling, ready to run toward her, but the crack of a gunshot broke through the air. He saw her laying there, blood dripping from her mouth, unconscious on the cold floor. Everything stopped. Time froze. The only sound left was the defeating thud of his heartbeat. The flowers fell from his hands. The sight of her frail body crumpled onto the ground twisted something inside of him. The calm, the composure that he always maintained shattered. And then darkness took over. His eyes flickered up toward the sniper, who was still hidden in the distance. The shot had missed its target. Jungkook clenched his fists. Jungkook, you picked the wrong person to cross. His voice was low as he barked orders to his men who had rushed to the scene. He didn't even need to explain what was about to happen. They knew. They could feel the storm taking birth around him. Carefully, he picked up Wine's faint body, his thumb gently wiping the blood from her lips. His heart broke seeing her in this state, but his eyes were nothing but cold, murderous intent. Jungkook, take her inside. Make sure she's taken care of. I'll deal with the rest. His men didn't hesitate to take wife from his arms and rushing her inside. Jungkook, find him. Bring him to me. Alive. Wine had been taken to the hospital, got treated. In the meanwhile, Jungkook got rid of the sniper, the one who ordered him to kill, and the whole hierarchy above him. In other words, he single handedly finished a whole clan within a night. Right, you don't mess with the John, and certainly not with his woman. Jungkook sat beside her, his elbows resting on his knees, watching Wine as she lay in the bed. The steady beeping of the machines in the background was the only sound in the room. After what felt like hours, he noticed the soft movement of her eyelids. His heart skipped a beat. He leaned closer, watching as Wine's eyes slowly fluttered open. Jungkook, Wine. His voice was soft, full of tenderness. He reached out, cupping her face gently, his thumb caressing her cheek. He leaned down, pressing a soft kiss to her forehead, his lips lingering there for a moment. Wine closed her eyes at the warmth of his touch. Jungkook, you scared me. You don't know how terrified I was when I saw you. His hand slid down to her neck, gently tracing the outline of her collarbone. Wine's eyes fluttered open again, and she tried to form words. Her lips parting slightly, a soft croak escaped her. But it was enough for Jungkook to lean in closer, his heart thudding in his chest. Wine, Jungkook. Her voice was barely above a whisper, strained and weak, but to him it was everything. He couldn't help the smile that tugged at the corner of his lips. Jungkook, beautiful, so beautiful. Wine's lips trembled slightly as she tried to speak again, her voice hoarse but full of emotion. Wine, I love you. Jungkook's breath hissed at the moment. It was like heaven brought upon earth. He swore on every breath he took till now, those three words were the most beautiful sound he has ever heard of. Jungkook, I love you too, more than anything. He kissed her softly, to which she replied. Her eyes turned glossy with happiness, and all the emotions she felt in that moment, he was safe. She was so scared, but seeing him safe was everything she needed. Pulling back, he held her hand and kissed her knuckles, watching her with love filled eyes. The storm inside of him could only die when he's around her. She was his salvation, and he was going to end the world if needed to protect her.